So, what you're telling me is that bro wasn't supposed to be canon. What's up guys, I'm here we are to do a breakdown and review of chapter 127 of which is known as The Day You Were Born. And this chapter, it has a bunch of clarifications, it raises a bunch more questions, it feels some theories out there that have existed before, it kind of debunks some other theories, yet may not fully debunk some other theories. This chapter is crazy. Honestly, I'd say one of the most important chapters in all of Four Knights. And we've had chapters where Arthur showed up, where Meliodas has shown up. This chapter, in spite of all of its beefy competition, is super duper important. And we have an insane amount of things to talk about. So let's not waste any more time and let's hop right into it. Editing me, ready, 3, 2, 1, go. What's up guys, I'm here. Fun fact, have it on me, keep it on me at all times. And another fun fact, see that fella right there? He adorable, ain't he? Don't he just like the purest of souls? Don't it just seem like he's just the best of boys? Nothing but pure, honest love and accept. He's not real. Well, he is real, but that's not him. That body, that flesh, that's not him. Oh, sorry. This chapter, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So let's not waste any more time. Let's hop right into it. Nice and simple and clean cover page by Nakaba. Obviously, before he gets into the trauma of this chapter, he wanted to introduce you with some Soft Boy. But don't worry, we don't get much Soft Boy for long, because Soft Boy immediately turns into Sword Boy, because golly! Once again, the clean sword work by Percy. I do not have Dragon Handle. I do have Lost Vein. But, like, that training was effective. It was one of, I tell you, like, straight training skill-wise, one of the biggest leaps we've seen in the entire series. Typically, a lot of training in Similarly Sins is just power-based. Like, especially in the original series, when our main cast was a crew of seasoned warriors, the Seven Sins. Then they're running into the Commandments, another group of seasoned warriors, and the Holy Knights, who are trained warriors, and all that, so on and so forth. Percy is one of the few whose, like, sword skill we've seen develop consistently throughout the series. From him not understanding how to use it at all, to having a very basic technique using the style of the cutting board that his grandfather taught him, to evolving a bit more by infusing magic into the blade, and now he's actually compiling real skill on top of it. And the level of skill I guess, yeah, literally combined with his base strength, which is already extremely high. This is noted by multiple characters that just Percy as an individual is much stronger than his frame would imply. Yeah, it creates something of a monster. I know it's not confirmed with this chapter or last chapter that this means that Percy is definitively above Ironside. He is pretty clearly above Mortlock. This is Mortlock's entire magic. He doesn't have anything else he can pull out. And clearly we're going to see Mortlock 100 million billion% lose in this chapter. Arguably we see that in this very first page. But with that being the case, I do think Ironside is still going to have to be a threat. I don't see Percy reaching Ironside level this soon. Especially considering, remember, he only trained with the memories of Ironside that he very specifically has in combat. And that was a suppressed, poisoned, distracted Ironside who was likely fueling a whole bunch of his magical power into the Coffin of Eternal Darkness. Other than that, he hasn't actually seen Ironside fight. And obviously, like, when Ironside first showed up in Chapter 1 and Varghese. But outside of that, the Ironside that Percy trained against and surpassed, he may have surpassed skill-wise, maybe, probably, because Mortlock claims he's better with a blade, but overall, as a combatant, we know skill isn't everything. Like, there are a bunch of skilled Holy Knights that would get fodderized by random demons. Random goddesses. Don't get me wrong, Percy was definitely a living, breathing, walking, talking skill issue, but just because he has the skill issue down, I don't think he's going to easily clear Ironside. There's going to be something. And even if it's not, like, say Percy just has surpassed Ironside, right? Because he spent the rest of the week training with Lance to try and beat Lance. I think Ironside, he's going to get like a Chaos Knight buff or something like that. Something's going to happen. If they do end up going to Camelot this soon in the narrative, which is still mind-blowing to me that that's an actual possibility, then something's going to happen with Ironside. If it isn't Arthur directly humbling the Knights, which I'm going to make a video on talking why I think that is kind of bound to happen at this point, there's going to be something. There's going to be something that kicks in that makes it so that Percy can't beat Ironside. whether it be due to Ironside's hidden true power, whether it be to a Camelot buff coming directly from Arthur, whether that be due to some other external factors, like him never even meeting Ironside, because Arthur shows up and just, that wasn't as good, just absolutely annihilating him. There are multiple ways that I think Ironside will still, maybe not be a late, but I feel like he kind of has to be, right? I feel like Ironside needs to be a late game protagonist. Or no, not protagonist, antagonist. I feel like he kind of has to be. But like, maybe not. I don't know. Once again, the length of 4 nights is something that deserves a whole video in of itself on what it could be or what it should be and stuff like that. So I don't know. Because it seems like Ironside and his tier of power, the 4 perils as they're known, it seems like their tier of power consistently seems to be getting closer inch to. There are obviously characters like Lancelot who have blown that tier of power out of the water. Like, don't get me wrong, I don't think Ironside or Pelgard, as much as I love Pelgard, as much as I tolerate Ironside, I don't think either of them are doing what Lance did to Arthur when Arthur showed up in Leonis. But at the same time, Percy's already outskilling him, and without any magical power, then he can stack his hope amps on top of that, hypothetical despair amps. Like, Ironside's gonna need a buff if he's gonna be a late game antagonist. Once again, what is late game? Is it the next couple chapters? Is it the next couple 100 chapters? Like, I honestly do not have a clue. Why are you not charging? I need you to charge, Buckaroo. Don't do this to me. Don't you do this to me. How can you do this to me? I built this I'm sorry. Tony Stark built this in a cave with a that because the outlet was eternal. But with that being the case, we're going to see that Percy did load up his uncle. He's not actually his uncle, like at all. Now I think about it. With the results of this chapter, these two not uncles at all. Or maybe. Who knows? But with that being the case, we see Mortlock's like, oh, it's not expecting you to be this strong. We're good. And he immediately falls. And we see that in spite of the fact that he's literally gotten a slash straight across the chest, you know, I don't know about you. I know a lot of y'all are built different. But me personally, if I got a slash straight across the chest, I would not be thinking about anything. But we see he turns as he falls to Deirdre. And he says, Deirdre, I'm sorry. Your uncle is lost. And that's crazy. One thing I will admit, I guess it's fine though, right? I am really itching for it. I think we're gonna have to get it soon. I really do want a proper group battle with the 4 Knights. Like, Gawain and Tristan's team up was cool. This 1v1 with Mortlock and Percy was cool. Obviously, I love Lancelot versus Nashi, so this isn't necessarily bad. I even think the Chaos Knights, though the rest of them, for how unique their abilities were kind of underutilized, we still got chapters with them properly fighting. We got to see Petrification, we had to see the magical arrow aiming stuff. Like, this group was good, but Macduff is still so goated, dog. But I do want, like, another Macduff tier threat. Someone that can actually bring proper challenge to them. Because notably, outside of the Testament Beast, which wasn't even one of the Chaos Knights, I mean, Nanashi didn't even really give Lance trouble. I was about to say Nanashi gave Lance a little bit of trouble, but did he really, though? Did he really, though? Did Lance ever seem remotely pressed in that fight? Like, I don't think so. I think Lance versus Nanashi was clearly in Lance's favor from beginning to end. Percy versus Mortlock, it ended off on a ominous kind of note, but like, we got like a total like 6 or 7 pages of them actually fighting, and then it revealed that Mortlock is actually getting low-diffed. It's only Tristan and Gawain who had a relatively high diff fight, which I do appreciate, but for the Chaos Knights being our main antagonists, like these are the group of people that is our casting crew, I'm gonna want more Pelgars, I'm gonna want more Ironsides, more Macduffs, more Jerichos. Well, maybe not Jericho. Jericho's kind of weird. How strong is Jericho? That's such a strange, nebulous question. I don't know. But with that being the case, I want more of those caliber. Because seeing Macduff just Percy was cool. Seeing the cast struggle is cool. And I like that. And I want it. So I'm going to take it. But with that being the case, I do hope we get more stuff like that. I hope once we get into Camelot, once again, if we're going to Camelot this soon, part of me wants to see them get stomped by I don't want to say non-Arthur, but literally, part of me wants to see them get stomped by someone who isn't Arthur, or have a good challenge from someone who isn't Arthur, and then Arthur comes in and stomps them. Something of this sort. Like, they just barely beat their adversaries. Like a tense, pitched battle. Like, if I had to take examples from Simile Sin specific, I'd say Meliodas versus Bond is a good example of a real high diff fight. I'd say even to a degree, even though it was revealed that Meliodas and Gil Thunder were acting for the most part, Meliodas versus Gil Thunder, Hendrickson, and Vivian, that was a really good, like, high diff, things are popping off left and right kind of fight. Though, no, that's, once again, those are all 1v1 fights. Nakaba isn't really particularly known for his group fights, now I think about it. The most major group fight I can think of is, like, the Ten Commandments jumping Meliodas, Dariariamon Speed versus Meliodas. Meliodas gets jumped a lot. The Demon King battles were good, though. But even then, that was more so Bond running the ones and the rest of the cast and crew supporting him, and Meliodas running the ones against his father on the inside. So yeah, I guess Nakaba doesn't really do too many team battles. So I guess I should be more appreciative for Tristan and Gawain versus the Testament Beast. But even still, give me some more of that. But we see that Mortlock is cooked, and he falls to the ground. And naturally, considering he was incapacitated, the rules of his dimension kick in, and Percy won. Percy did not execute him, because, you know, Percy is too much of a soft boy to do that. But the dimension does end up collapsing. And this is a very cool image. I love how literally all the crystals shatter, and you see Percy, who's still on guard, but Mortlock, who's just beaten, just laying back on the ground. Very, very beautiful visual by Nakaba. And we see, once again, before Mortlock is even able to fully hit the ground, they are back on the back of the behemoth, and the whole crew's posted up. look at Short Shaw look tough. He's really like, I knew it. I love Big Papa Percival. I knew Percival would never take no L's. He's really posted up back there like that. But of course, we see the whole cast and crew is watching as Percy and Mortlock leave the dimension. And we see, I love the different reactions here. Once again, Nakaba, I like some cold water. But Nakaba, stay refreshed. I was supposed to say stay refreshed and hydrated. Stay refreshed and hydrated, folks. Drink your water. But with that being the case, I love all the different reactions here. Nakaba, he's one of, I want to say few, but he's one of my favorite mangaka when it comes to visual storytelling through expression. Like, all the character work that's done in all these wordless panels is chef's kiss. Wonderful, wonderful. I love it. There's one I'm going to critique, but I think I just got to get used to it at this point. I'm not sure if that's ever going to be, like, kicked out of her character at this rate. Like, we may just be stuck with it until, and we know Isol's not getting got. So, like, she's just going to be a victim for the entire series until Tristan maybe tries to grow some and just fight back a little bit. But who knows? But with that being the case, I love all the reactions here. You see the Donners just being like, what? Percy's that Timothy? Weren't you there? Weren't you there? Weren't you there? But I guess he was focusing on lifting big stuff. Now I think about it, that hasn't come to fruition. Yeah, I guess it's stated he never really succeeded, but, like, he didn't really lift much. At least nothing more impressive than his first lifting feat. I still think the most impressive lifting feats and throwing feats that Donnie has are against Doranok, when he first unlocked the ability, and against Meligaland. Those are about the two most impressive ones, because after that, I can't really think of anything else all too crazy for Brody in terms of sheer lifting. So, once again, I'm kind of banking everything on Camelot popping off. So I really do hope that Donnie gets a fight or something in Camelot that allows him to show off his strength gain. I love how Anne, she's shocked too. You can see the sweat drops on her, but she's more like she's just genuinely, Donnie's shocked. Anne is surprised. I like the dichotomy between there. Donnie, the more expressive and wild one, is like, huh? Meanwhile, Anne, the still expressive, but more controlled and level-headed of the group, was like, because naturally that's still shock. Nasian's, he's that perfect balance of both, where he's like sweating and his mouth is agape, but he isn't as crazy shocked as Donnie, yet still more crazy shocked than Anne. He's just like, just, bro, was not expecting that to happen. Of course, you know, I gotta love him. My katana wielding boy. Lance just like me, for real, for real. Me and him both got katanas on us. Lancelot, so obviously he knew. He had the data. He had the data dump. He gave Percy the data dump. He's like, yeah, I've got that. I've always got that. And I love the confidence in him. He's like, yeah, I trained him right. I know he's like that. Love Lance. Once again, the sibling dynamic, and I know everyone's like, you can't just call everything in fiction a sibling dynamic. Who gonna stop me? Who gonna stop me? It's gonna be you? I ain't think so. So you ain't stopping nothing. But the sibling dynamic between Percy and Lancelot is like, I'm not gonna say it's my favorite. Is it though? it may be my favorite dynamic so far that's been established in the Seven Deadly Sins. Because this is like the earliest dynamic. Unless you really do, unless you want to go super hardcore about it, and count Sin as an entirely separate character from Lance, for one reason or another, you just say, no, they are completely separate. You cannot overlap them. Sin and Percy, and thusly by proxy, Lance and Percy, have the longest lived dynamic. Obviously, you can definitely argue Donnie counts first, because Sin didn't really talk at first, but Sin / Lancelot is the first person Percy met. So seeing their bond develop and grow over time is fantastic. Love the character work there. Gawain. Stop. Stop it. Stop. Who's going to tell her? Tristan, if you don't get your girl, bro. Once again, I understand why Isolde doesn't necessarily do anything in retaliation. Because, like, what's the equivalent? Imagine you had, like, I can't even think of an equivalent. Imagine you had, like, a bear cub or, like, a lion cub, but it wasn't necessarily actually, like, the size and strength of a bear or lion cub, and it was just really, really affectionate. Like, literally wouldn't leave you alone. But then the second you attempted to fight back, it would hit you with the full strength of either a bear or lion. I would get that. Like, personally, I would treat that cub like it was my first son or my first child, whether it be lion or bear, because I'd be afraid of getting smacked. And I'm assuming that's why Isolde's letting it slide. I don't think this is common. Like, I get they're both women, but, like, I don't know. Is this how y'all get down? I got like a 2%, nah, let me not even lie, like a 0.2% female audience, so I don't know. But, like, Gawain, please stop. Get off. Please. Well, not in that way. Not in that way, Gawain. Get off of Isolde. But, of course, we see Tristan's also bamboozled. And Kion... Something in my heart of hearts tells me that Kion was really hoping for Tristan. How do I keep mixing up their names? It's literally been years. But I bet there's a deep-seated part of Kion, especially by the wideness of his eye here. Part of him was hoping Percy was going to get got. He was low-key on the side of the Camelot Knights there. He was like, yeah. Oh, really? Your guy's that strong? You're telling me he could hypothetically get rid of that threat? Does he need another blade? Like something tells me that Kion was on that kind of timing. That's why he's so bamboozled. And another thing I love, once again, these characters are irrelevant. I'm assuming, I mean, maybe we'll see the Black Knights of Six again, but I highly doubt it. I highly doubt we're going to see this crew again. But once again, if we're not going to, and they're supposed to be our surrogate for the entire Demon Clan, I am happy with how happy their reactions are to see Big Papa Percival coming out and proving why he is their chosen one, their savior, their Big Papa. I do love that. Once again, fantastic character work by Nakaba. And we see that everyone is bamboozled, and Anne specifically yells, Percival! And we see the Chaos Knights being like, I'm sorry, what? I can't believe it. Lord Mortlock lost? That's impossible. I really don't blame him, because like a week ago, presumably Mortlock would have washed him, right? Like, if they had just not waited. But though admittedly, I understand why they waited. I've been a little bit harsh on my favorite son, Zeldris, but like, I don't think the Chaos Knights were doing anything to Broski. So I get why they waited, but dog, give him a full week of training in the demon room. Like, come on now, Bucko, you should have known better. And obviously we see that Kion is like, oh, Gawain's back safe, the door to Camelot is open, and now we've taken down the Knights of Chaos. It's all going too well. Me and Kion, we're on the same wavelength, bro. And now you know what? Kion is still a flip-flop kind of character for me. It really depends on the chapter. I need to sit down and just fully evaluate and do a full comprehensive analysis on how I feel about Kion as a character. Because sometimes I want to reach through the screen, reach into the manga, and wring him by his stupid little neck. Because he just makes some of the dumbest decisions. He's an idiot, he's rude, he's disgusting, he's diabolical. But at the same time, he has moments like this, and his moment of avenging Jade, and he has his moment of his backstory and trauma, which I still need to review. And he has all that extra stuff to him that really makes me like the character. And like, I'm sure it's purposeful. Nakaba knows how to gaslight me. He's been doing it for years at this point. So like, I know it's on purpose. that I'm consistently conflicted on his character. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but he's right. Once again, I've been kind of preaching this for the past couple chapters, but it does seem to be going a bit too well. Like, everything seems to be lining up way too good. Maybe, if we had managed to keep Lance from getting his hands on Grey Deer, maybe I could be like, okay, maybe they won't get washed. But it seems too specific. Too many, like, soft win cons have been met, if you know what I mean. Like, I've been playing a lot of Spider-Man 2, shock horror. It's kind of like you've met all the mission requirements. Say a random crime pops up. You beat all the enemies, but you didn't get that bonus point. Like, there's just that extra bit of XP that's missing before we leap into such a big thing. Sure, Lance is a Sacred Treasure tier weapon. That's fantastic. It's not a weapon he prefers to use. It's a dull blade. And no one else is a Sacred Treasure tier weapon. Unless you want to count the Percival sword as one, because it's made of the Coffin of Eternal Darkness. But even then, that's just the hilt. Percy isn't striking people with the hilt. He's striking them with the blade, which is just a regular old blade. Tristan just got a recent massive amp with Annihilation, something that can wipe things from existence or just straight up erase them, according to Gawain. That's a really good, juicy amp. But wait, their goal is to fight someone who makes existence and makes worlds, and also is a prominent wielder of both extreme light and extreme darkness. So Tristan's amp may not matter all too much. Gawain just admitted that after all this time we've been with small Gawain, which is literally like, how much time has passed in universe? It's been like a year for us, because we're on 127, and I think Gawain made her final big appearance in like the late 60s, early 70s. So it's been about 50 chapters. So it's been literally over a year for us since we've seen Buff Gawain. But in universe, I think it's been a couple days. Maybe not no, it's literally been more than a week now I think about it. It's been a couple days from leaving Leonis, getting to Walnock, then getting to the Demon World. And then they had the whole week in the Demon World, and Gawain still wasn't fully charged with Dawn. And she just burnt up a whole bunch of Dawn to help beat the Testament Beast alongside Tristan. So she's running in there, sure. She has more resolve and more trust in her friends, but in terms of raw power, not only is she likely lagging behind both Tristan and Lance still, but also she doesn't even have access to that full power. A little bit too soon. And don't get me wrong, Percy has gotten a massive amp. And if that puts him above the other knights, we'll have to see how much his, like, sword skill has improved with magic infusion and stuff like that. And, like, how hard you think he counters some people. Like, do you think Gawain can still just insta-sword give him, like just teleport a sword into his belly and suddenly he's done? Or do you think Percy can heal off of that? Do you think that Percy's magic would absorb the light and darkness that Tristan fires, or do you think it would not absorb it? Obviously, Lance slams. So, like, Percy, while he's gotten a massive skill buff, his raw stats, unless it's revealed that they got amped too, they're likely around the same as before. And once again, even if he did surpass Gawain, he's not Demon Mark Tristan level, and Demon Mark Tristan is fodder. To Arthur, at least. So I understand Kyne's mentality here. Everything seems to be going too smooth. We're almost there. We have people with some of the right setups, with new buffs, with new character understanding, with a Sacred Treasure tier weapon. But not everyone's got it. Certain characters still aren't strong enough, and Lance is going to have to carry. And don't get me wrong, Lance has low kizzle been backpacking the entire crew for the run of the manga. Like, the whole run of the manga. The entire thing. Lance has been backpacking, don't get me wrong. So, backpacking wouldn't be new. But I'm not sure if he's backpacking against Chaos Arthur wielding Excalibur in his own realm. Even with Grey Deer. I know Lance is Himothy, and I know the people in the Lance fan club, especially the president of the league, is going to be like, hey, what you saying about our boy? But don't get me wrong. I got faith in Lancelot, but I don't think he's going to solve the plot on his own. It says the 4 knights would bring down Camelot, bring its destruction, not just Lance. And destroying Camelot means destroying and defeating Arthur, and I don't think Lance can do that on his own, and I think Arthur would literally low dip the rest of the knights by breathing on them, especially in his own realm, if that gives him an amp. However, of course, we see the Donners being like most people, so a lot of y'all in the comments are like, dude, gotta chill out. Come on, a little positive thinking wouldn't hurt now and then, will it? And, you know, Donnie, Donnie, I want to think positively, but I know you're right. When things seem to be going too well, something bad happens. The Meliodas jumping is a perfect example. Meliodas got jumped by the Ten Commandments. He was doing relatively well against strong Lexinia. And it seemed like a lot of win cons were... This is a very similar situation to Meliodas versus the Commandments, when I really think about it. Because what happened? One major cast and crew member got a massive buff. That was Meliodas getting the post-Druid amp back, being able to go to Demon Mark and control himself. That was a massive amp. He literally got a Sacred Treasure tier weapon, just like Lance did in Lost Vein. What happened? There was another Sunshine-esque magical user who had a massive burst of power that they could only use for a very succinct period of time, and afterwards were unable to fight again. Oh, doesn't that sound familiar? Escanor Lane parallel. What's the Percy parallel there? I mean, Elizabeth kind of had to be useless, but I'm not sure about that. There seems to be too much going, especially considering we're reaching around that same number where something big and bad happened. Like, Meliodas died around the 155s. I think, off the top of my head. I think that battle's in the 150s. Around 127. If any massive plot shift or time skip were to occur in a similar breakup format that the original series underwent, it would be now. Actually, was it the 150s or the 170s? This is what happens. All the chapters start to blur together. But essentially, we're close to something chaotic happening. So I'd love to agree with the Donners, who's grinning up a devious little storm. But I don't know, Donnie boy. Donnie boy. I don't know about all that, but you gotta keep your guard up. You gotta keep your guard up. However, of course, the man, the myth, the legend himself, Percy, puts the sword away. And we see that Anne runs up worriedly. It's like, all that juice. All that tomato juice. Were you hurt? And we see that Nasian's ever the doctor is like, hate to admit it. Well, yes, I do like to admit it, because I'm glad my boy ain't harmed, but it looks like all of it's from his opponent, which is such a... I don't know. It happens so often that technically still shouldn't be this cold to me, but like... I always love lines like that when they come from other characters, but especially when they come from the characters. Like, someone's like, dude, you're covered in so much tomato juice. And the guy's like, not my tomato juice. And it just implies so much. So we've seen it. So the implication is fine enough. And we see that Percy, despite getting his dub, you know, how did I whiff that? Despite getting his dub, he's still a little sad. And Anne actually asks, Percival, is everything okay? And we see that Percival, itching, scratching, feeding for it, is like, tell me all that you know about me. Bro wants the information. He wants the data. Especially because you gotta remember, not like 30 minutes ago, realistically, probably not like 10 minutes ago, Percy's entire worldview was shattered. He found out that he just wasn't a person. Like, he is a person, but he's like a not person possessing a person. He's taking the body of something else. He just found that out maybe 5 minutes ago. 10 if you're being generous. He just found that out. And now he finally is someone who's supposedly his uncle, someone who supposedly knows Ironside very, very well, in a super vulnerable position where they should be able to answer all his questions. He wants the truth. Because the truth will set you free. Or it could end up being a heavier shackle than ignorance could ever be. As we see, Mortlock lays back, coughing up tomato juice, and everyone is shocked to see Percy make such a demand, and sweating, because she's like, oh no, should we really do this right now? Nasia's like, oh no, should we do this right now? All the Chaos Knights, Rosebank especially, like, wait, what? What's going on? And we see that Percy, with a look of sheer determination in his eye, actually goads it out of Mortlock. Though admittedly, I do think, as much as I want to just chalk this up to Mortlock being a good sport and telling his not nephew everything that he wants to know just simply because he won, I do think this is kind of a manipulation tactic, and I'll cover that in a bit. But we see that Mortlock says, oh, right, I will. It was 16 years ago. My brother-in-law Ironside was frantically trying to help young Diotra, whose mother was poisoned by the Demon Lord. I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't laugh. That's still one of the funniest details to me. That man just refused to go out in silence. He just refused it. Like, no matter what. No matter what, Broski just hardcore said, nah. If I'm going, I'm taking as many of those worthless maggots with me. That's crazy. He didn't even mean to actively do it, though. From what I could tell of the early explanation, it just happened. It just flew. His body was just so corrupted by the pure, boundless darkness that existed within him that it literally just spread out. It was like, nah, we're gonna cause some havoc, Buckaroo. That is crazy to me. Imagine having so much hatred in your heart and so much negativity and dark energy built up in your core that just the remains of your body casually flying around sickens people. That's wild. However, of course, we are now back 16 years in the past. And I got a bunch of different voices to do, so I'm going to slurp up the last of this water. It's time. It's time to lock in. Come here. Ooh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Ironside, are you back? We're coming in. Ironside! Leaving the Yozra behind like this. Where have you been? Mortlock. And Dad, too? Why all the panic? Ironside. What's on the table? So, this is interesting. This does give a lot of context and does explain weird timeline discrepancies that were born of a lack of information. A lot of people, and by people I mean me, a lot of people were wondering, well, how can Percy and Gildra exist at the same time? How? Did Ironside get another wife? Did his wife secretly have 2 kids and he only focused on Gildra and discarded Percival? Like, what happened here? But this clarification shows that Gildra is a separate individual from Percival entirely. And we see Ironside, you know, back in the day, I thought Build-A-Bear was really, really cool. So it was very, very neat. But never did I think I'd get to see Build-A-Baby. Because here we see Ironside looks to the side. And he's looking a lot like Hendrickson. He looks a lot like Hendrickson, especially in these shots and angles. Which I'm not sure is more of Nakaba's somewhat same face syndrome, or ties into a certain idea that's been floating around the community for a while that this chapter gave a whole lot more fuel to. But you recognize them little feeties. We see there is a baby. And as you can tell by the hairstyle, the low floof, that is Percival. But is it Percival? That's the question. As we see that Mortlock realizes, a baby? And we see that, obviously, Varghese a little bit concerned on where he magically pulled the second child out of. He's like, where did you ever bring that thing from? Why does it sound like, why did he say that? Where did you ever bring that from? And that's a weird sound. I'm going to chop that up to a weird translation. Where did you ever bring that from? Have you lost your mind? Huh? It's not breathing. He perished not long ago. He's still warm, don't you see? Dog. Now, here's the thing, right? At the moment, I'm not lucky enough to have little mini pencils running around. I do not have kids yet. And from the people I know, friends and family who have kids, and obviously the pencil parents, I know that they would do a lot of things for their kids. I know as an actual factual. And heck, even me as an individual, I may not have little mini pencils running around right now, but once I do, I'm gonna do my darndest to give the world and more to them kids. But I don't know. Especially because, like, I've been raised around a lot of, like, young kids and or just a lot. I have a big family. My cousins are consistently giving birth all the time. And thusly, I have a bunch of experience with babies. Like, just taking care of them, whether it be to babysit or just them visiting or something like that. And I get it. This is different because it's a random orphan baby as far as he knows. But, like, even that, like, I can't imagine being so desensitized to a non-living baby. Like, a baby, bro. Like, I get Ironside's a warrior, so thusly the idea and concept of the end of life, it's not something that's foreign to him. Obviously, he's used to the idea that, oh, well, things perish. It'd be like that, it'd be like that. But dog, a baby, and especially considering, right, this is just me being generous and not even mentioning what Ironside was really cooking with this baby. As we see, he brings up the fact that he perished not long ago and the fact that he's still warm for a reason. And we see he mentions something very interesting. But his soul has already perished. Babies hardly have any memories to retain, after all. Or any regrets. So, we see Ironside make a very peculiar symbol. Right hand, he does a shush motion. Left hand, fingers. This is interesting. This could be a domain expansion. Someone make a domain expansion with this. That's a domain right there. But we see he starts chanting very, very familiar magic. Very familiar symbols. Now, stop it. I'll do my best. No, I won't, because I have no idea what any of this means. There are certain things that I want to point out. Ironside goes on to chant. Goody bob, goody bob, goody bob, goody bob, goody bob, goody bob, goody bob. And we see that this, according to Varghese, is a high-level spirit magic. Ironside, what are you trying to do? And note, remember Zaza? Or, as his legal government name is, Zorura Endu. We don't get that exact mention here, but we get certain things. Certain similar things. This right here, Galora and Galra Endu. Very similar to Zalula. Right? I forget, is that his actual name? Zaruda? Or Zaruda? Zaruda? Something Endu. Endu is a part that was used in Despair Percy's incantations. And Vazu Sigura. Vaz Zigura is the one that Percy used in his incantations. So, once again, it's interesting. And Ironside in a recent data book was very specifically mentioned to be using some sort of summoning magic. So he's very similar to Kion. So Ironside ended up using this high-level spirit magic. This has led a lot of people to believe that he's actually a druid. Not only due to his resemblance to Hendrickson, especially before the beard and everything, but also this use of spirit magic. The only reason I say that's maybe not the case is because, one, I don't think the druids would be cool with this, like, at all. And two, the idea that Varghese would have to marry a druid and then not stay with her, I guess? I don't know. We have no mention of Percy's grandmama. Only Varghese, who does not appear to be a druid of any sort. However, the evidence for it is clear as day. From his utilization of spirit magic, which seems very similar to light magic, his utilization of the light crosses, which seem very similar to what Goddess Clan members would do with their arc. There are many, many different hints for him maybe being a druid. And we see that with the final declare, he ends up summoning something into the body of this little child who lost it all. And we see that ultimately, as everyone's blown back, blown away, Ironside actually ends up losing something from his mouth. He ends up going, oh, and sings out the most gorgeous of high notes. And we see that everyone's shocked, from Mortlock to Varghese. Everyone's looking and is like, wait a minute. No. And we see that Varghese, ever the great grandfather, bro. Honestly, I hope I'm as good as a granddad as Varghese was, bro. I really do. I hope I'm half as good as a man as he was when it comes to raising the grandkids or taking care of them. We see that he immediately asks, Mortlock, is the Ozra all right? And we see Mortlock saying, yes, Ironside, what of you? And we see that the baby reaches out, resurrected and born, and ends up grasping on to Varghese's massive finger. So Percy. So, this does, I mean, this isn't a popular fan theory, I've just seen it here and there. A lot of people theorize that once it was revealed that Percy is kind of not really the original body's owner, a lot of people assume that maybe it was the case that Percy actually ended, or no, Zalula ended up swapping places with Percy as the life spirit, while Percy ended up becoming just a regular human being for the most part. And ultimately, Zalula and Du is just the original body of Percy, given form and shape. But if we're going to take Ironside's comment at face value that the soul did already leave, it did in fact dissipate, then that's kind of impossible. Kind of impossible. Though, interesting. Very, very interesting that Ironside, of all people, has the proper ability to resurrect which has been lost. Presumably this is a recency thing. Like, you have to be recent to the battlefield, seemingly enough. Or recent to the afterlife, not the battlefield. Because he very specifically notes, what do you mean, Pops? The body's still warm. We can still use it. Dad, we could still use the body. Which is crazy. And of course, with Percy being properly born, we see that Ironside reveals that using such high-level magic that would essentially inherently break the laws of creation on multiple levels, from the creating of another life, from the manipulation, well, I guess you could argue the manipulation, why can't I say manipulation? The manipulation of life spirits, all that, those abilities, they seem to, let's just say, work in a sort of different way. It's so crazy to me that he was able to do that, though. To sort of revive someone from the afterlife using... I get it, he says he takes a lot of years off his life, but still. Very, very impressive. And we see that Ironside makes an awfully haunting comment, bro. I get it. He's a desperate father. And he's also... he's just a villain, bro. That's the thing. I can't say I empathize, but I do sympathize. I understand the feeling of having one shot to raise the child by the woman that you love. One shot. And then ultimately being willing to risk anything to make sure that the offspring of said woman is safe. But like taking out for another person's kid, even say the questionable circumstances that are revealed later on in the chapter weren't even a thing, I still don't think I would be able to do it. I still just do not think. But of course, it doesn't end there, because obviously the question still stands. Like, dude, wait, where'd you get a baby from? And we see, and Ironside explains, it's not this child any longer. It's a soulless vessel imbued with the powerful light spirit, life spirit. A powerful life spirit. So there are life spirits of various varieties. How did Ironside get in contact with them? Who taught him? There are so many different things that apparently need... I don't know. It's still super interesting that it is a powerful one. But with that being the case, we see that Ironside drops the bar. He says, you know what? Forget about it. Forget about it. I don't even want all that. I don't even want all that. A boy? A child? Nah. You see, that implies that he has rights. That he has free will. That he is as worth it as my own son. You see, father, brother-in-law, he ain't a boy. He's a fancy Airbnb. And that's wild to me. The fact that bro has completely disregarded and thrown away all of Percy's autonomy. Or whoever Percy was, once again. Supposedly his name was Percival, but I'm not sure if Ironside didn't just come up with that on the spot. With that being the case, they apparently plan to take Dieldra out of his own body and put his soul into the new one. That's very, very interesting. That is an interesting thing. So once again, the manipulation of soul and stuff like that seems like a very druid-esque ability. And honestly, the more I talk about it, the more I'm leaning into it. But still, that's very interesting. And we see, as Dieldra wakes up, apparently there are certain perks that Percy has that other humans won't because of how he was resurrected. With an immortal body like this one, he'll never feel illness again, and he'll be able to live freely outside of Camelot too, for decades, for centuries, even millennia. The son of Bridget and I can live forever. So we do get not Percy's mom name. We do get Dieldre's mom's name, Bridget. Feels like a Guilty Gear reference. But with that being the case, we see that Morlock is like, bucko, you sure about that? One, are you sure it's immortal? And two, are you sure you can even do that? That sounds very not legal, if you know what I'm talking about. And we see that Varghese is simply not standing for it. He's like, dude, you truly have gone mad. You shouldn't. You could have provided a perfectly happy life for him without resorting to any of this. Even if he'll perish young, why can't you find it in yourself to live as Dieldra is? Not... Wait, what? You can't find it in yourself to love Dieldra as he is. Isn't that what a father does? That is true. That is very, very true. But obviously, Ironside just can't fathom that. Because once again, another thing that I've heard from a lot of parents, or parents of young people, or people who are responsible for people in general, it's kind of weird how little regard that people have whenever they are directly motivated, to put it nicely. And we see that Ironside's not holding this, as he's like, dude, I'm your son. You mean you would have just let me perish? You would have just given up on me? If he truly loves his son from the heart, any father would want to help him, no matter what, too. No matter what it took, which is, I mean, not necessarily. I know there are certain scenarios that I would do that could get that guy with the dad so mad at me that I would never be able to do anything. So it's a rough position to be in. Once again, you kind of, like, at least for me, I kind of understand the father angle. Because I'd want to save my kid. I know, once again, a lot of people have told me that the most difficult thing to do as a parent is to bury your own children before you left. And that's just not possible here. But with that being the case, we do get to see that Varghese is like, where did you bring this child from? He doesn't have any parents of his own? And we see Ironside loosely cut his eyes as he says, there was an attack. Yes, an attack. A wagon fell off a cliff. It bore emblem on it. The gang drive so hard and it racked me on the bus. Well, wait, what? Where's my mind going? The driver said he was the 7th prince before he perished. The succession succeeded harmoniously. That's all that matters now. So, I think you know, I know, we all know, Ironside slaughtered those people. He definitely slaughtered those people one way or another. There's no way he didn't. But with that being the case, we see that Mortlock naturally is wondering, but why even ask? How much of that story is true? And this is what keeps his name? I don't know that. But, oh, wait. And we see that ultimately this is where the bond between Percival, the life spirit, and old Grandpa Varghese truly began. As he says personal, I think. Am I reading that right? He really said that, bro. He really said, just give me back the vessel. He said, just give it to me, Dad. Just give it to me. Run it for me. That is wild. It's extremely precious to the Ultra. That's crazy. And we see, apparently that night, Varghese disappeared from Camelot along with Percy. And we see that Morlock's like, you knew, didn't you? You knew the truth. You wanted confirmation from me, but you knew. You knew exactly what you were. A monster. A beast. You knew you were a life spirit. One who gained self-awareness inside his human vessel. And of course, Percy just learned this, but now everyone else is learning it. Wait, you're kidding, right? His vessel? Lance is even shocked, so he didn't know about that, which is very interesting. And Isolde still getting hung on by Gawain, but even Gawain is shocked. And Kion, naturally recognizing being a spirit summoner himself, he's like, wait a minute, a life spirit? No way. And we realize that Anne realizes, what we all realize, wait, that means Percival, you're not human, not demon, nor goddess, nor giant, nor fairy. The fact that you're not anyone or anything at all. You're not Teodra's brother, you're not Ironside's son, and you're certainly not Varghese's grandson either. Can you imagine the depths of Ironside's despair? If you gained your own self-awareness, you lose all value as a vessel. Not only did that premonition of his come true, but you became a prophecy. The night of prophecy that's threatening to take his son and us all. You, Percival, should never have been born into this world. That's crazy. So, W chapter. I'm very interested to see where we go from here on out. Percy now has the truth. We now have the truth. And there are so many things that need to be discussed in their own videos. So, I'm going to cut off here and give the chapter a solid worthiness rating. Now, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it all the way to the end, please leave anti-birth in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe. And make sure you hit that little notification bell so you don't miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below. Each for as low as $1. Count them $1 a month. Getting exclusive videos, early content, and more. Also, now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Now, I want to thank you guys so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Dag on the Pencil, writing off. I want to give a thank you to our $3 members, Recliner Plays and Redwolf4765. I'd like to give another very big thank you to our $5 patrons, Winter, Victor, Sean, Midnight Gemlord, Kevin, and Demix LND. I'd like to give another hefty thank you to our $10 patrons, Robbie Uchiha, Joaquin, and Idem Okami. And I'd like to give a fat, hefty, scrumdiddlyumptious, juicy thank you to our $25 patrons, Igneal and Calvin Elder. And one final absolute thank you to our $25 member, Alex Ice Rose.